I think, yeah, we can get started. Okay. So, hello everyone. So it's an honor to welcome you all to the first meetup of 2022 for Chennai user group. We have Prasann, Vani, and Priyanka with us, who will be our speakers today. And yeah, okay. So a quick intro about myself. So I'm Vinod. So I lead the Chennai user group along with a couple of people, Siraj and Bashir. So they are not able to join today. Yeah. So I work as an AVP with a top global bank, and primarily I work as a data visualization evangelist, and I'm a Tableau visionary, a two-time Tableau ambassador, and a Tableau public feature author. I co-lead a lot of community initiatives, like it's all mentioned here, SDGs project, mentoring, meetup, is to educate, and other things. And you can always, reach out to me at Twitter, Data Art, and you can find me there. And as far with the agenda today, we'll start present. Will present us about talk to us about the Tableau basics through the lens of a layman, and then we have Vani presenting the basic do's and don'ts of building a dashboard, and then Priyanka will talk about the underused Tableau features. So it's a you have option to the chat option is there, and we have the Q&A option is there. The Q&A, you'll have to post all your queries into the Q&A box. So it's more like a webinar format. So we'll be answering as much as queries as possible at the end of each session. Right? Like once present session is over, we'll be answering a couple of questions, and when all the sessions are over, at the last we'll take up all the questions and we'll be answering as much as possible within the stipulated time. Right? So with that, let us get started with the first session. So first up is Prasann. Prasann is a rock star. He's one of the active community members from India, as well as he's known globally and he's like very active in the community. His Tableau Buddy initiative is a very impactful one, and we really have we see a lot of potential in his initiative, and we have really high hopes on what he's going to come up with in the community in the future. So over to you, Prasann, and we can get started with the first session.
Thank you, Vinod. Thank you so much for such an elaborative and a detailed introduction about me. That's so good to hear from you. I won't take much of the time of our audience because we are jam-packed with three great speakers. So let me share my screen first. Great. Okay, so this session we are going to this will be a short session, but we are going to learn about Tableau basics, but not from the Tableau terminology, but from the lens of a layman. How a normal person can view what is actually going on behind Tableau. So before we go on and learn about Tableau basics, I'll just introduce myself again, because Vinod just talked about me, that I'm a featured author, I'm a business intelligence analyst. One thing I'd like to add is my life motto. That is, the more I'll share, the more I'll learn. That's what I've been doing. And I'm a data nerd and geek, and I love data visualizations and anime. And apart from that, you can find me on LinkedIn and on Twitter as well, anytime. So just ping me and I'm a message away. That's how I am and how much geeky I am into the social media. So let's start with one of the questions. What is data? We talk about that data is everywhere. Data is the new oil. There are lots of questions coming on, but what is actually data? Now, let me show you a screen. This is dot. Now, what does it signify? It can be anything. Whatever we want to visualize it. It may be a planet in the whole universe. It may be a small dot on a paper. So let's just simplify it more and add a particular value to it. Let's just assume that it's a circle and we have one value associated with it. That is, here I've just tagged the name of one of my friends, because there are some issues with using other names and everything. So using my friend's name is much better. So coming back to this point, this particular circle is associated with a variable that is called Sudhanshu Singh. Now, this, if we look at this entity now, we can refer that this is also a data, because everything, each and everything, even our name, address, everything is data around there. Now, this is a single point. Now, how about so many points? Now, what is that? These are all actual data itself. Like, we can, even if I'm talking right now, like if I say my name is Prasann Prem, that is also a data. So coming back to the screen, we can see so many points, and now we'll randomly associate some values to it. Okay, now we can see that there is one name plus there's another name that is coming in, there's 35. So the data is all together, but it is not structured. It is everywhere. And that is how the world is actually. The data is scattered everywhere. Now, what should we do? We got to know that data can be anything. It can be a name, number, whatever we associate a value to a particular entity, that can be a data. But how to further take information out of it? So the next step would be to organize it. So we took all the points that were scattered out there and we organized it. Now, what happens next? We placed in a way such that our names are in a particular sequence, and we have another values to it. Or we can, if we now look at the screen, what does it suggest more? It suggests that it is placed in a structure where the elements are, all the elements that are in the horizontal direction, that are columns, and then all the elements are, these are rows. Now, we can clearly see that this is how this, if we talk about a spreadsheet or a table, that's something how it's arranged. The data is arranged in the form of rows and columns. Now, if I put these circles, or maybe we can refer to these as balls, and if I put this on a particular table, because we need to store this particular set of information at some place actually, and that is how we do it. So because it's more about how to perceive things, so I'll just place them on a real table. And if we talk about this table, this can, in data terms, we might refer to it as spreadsheet. So that is the actual flow. What is data? It can be anything. Any value you associate to a particular entity, that can be a data. And when you arrange it in a form and you place it in a structure, it takes the form of rows and column and grid that we all talk about, that we always see in our work as well. But if we signify this particular concept in terms of what we can actually see, or we can say as a tangible object, that is much more clear to see, and as well as understand as well. So next, I'll go on to rows and columns. Now, why are rows and columns important? Rows and columns are very important because even if we are trying to create a single data visualization and we are not aware about the rows and columns concept, it's hard to build a visualization. If you're using show me feature, that's another case. But if you're starting from scratch, you need to know about the rows and columns concept. Now, coming to the rows and columns concept, I'll just want you to remove everything from your mind, what you knew about rows and columns. Now, look at this globe. This is how our Earth is, and our latitude. This runs from, I'll annotate a bit. So this runs from our left to right. These are our latitude. These run from left to right, and the longitude top to bottom. This is how actually our latitudes and longitudes are, right? So let me erase this, clear everything. So if we, because it's almost a 3D model, so it might be a bit difficult to perceive how they are going because this is a closed circle. But if we signify them or maybe simplify them in the form of lines, now we can see that this is how latitudes are. These are running from left to right. And if we talk about longitudes, they run from top to bottom. So in Tableau terms, if we talk about these latitudes and longitudes, so the latitudes are actually the columns and the latitudes are actually the rows, sorry about that, and the columns are the longitudes. Or there's one more explanation I would like to mention, that latitudes are rows, that's okay, but latitudes are those elements that are placed vertically. Because if you look at these latitudes or even the rows, how are they placed? Every element is placed one over another. Every row is placed on top of each other. That's how the rows are being placed. And if we talk about longitude, these are placed horizontally, and every column, or even if we talk about our globe, the longitude or the columns are placed horizontally and they are side by side to each other. So if we generalize this concept and we implement the same to Tableau while building our visualization, it will be very much easier, and you'll be very much comfortable as well to see how the formation is going on. Because once you get an idea about how the things are getting placed, it is much more easier to build your charts. Now, we'll probably move on to the next concept, that is aggregate and non-aggregate calculation. This topic I picked because I used to had so many issues with when I was starting and I was writing calculations. But then I thought of it in a different way, and this actually helped me solve every such type of calculation, and I don't see a hiccup now. Now, what is actually, now let's say we have a classroom of so many, I think there's a total 100% diversity, 50% girls and boys. So we have a classroom here, and now I'll pick just one of a boy, and I want to check the height and weight, and I want to calculate a ratio of that height and weight. So I did that. What happens if I did such a calculation of taking a height and weight of a particular entity, and then I'm calculating it, or in Tableau terms, I can write this calculation as height divided by weight. That's how I'll do it. So this type of calculation that happens for a particular entity or happen at row level, these calculations are aggregate. Now, if I take a bunch of people out there, now in this group, we can see that here are 4 people. I want the average height weight of the entire group. What I should do in such case? Now, if I go by the simple method of calculating at non-aggregate or row level, it might look like this. H1 height of 1 divided by W1 plus height of 2 divided by W2. And all of them, we are summing it up and then we are dividing it by 4. But this is not, we should do it, or this is now not how the actual mathematics also suggests. So if we further tweak this calculation, how we will generally do it in math? We'll do it like H1 plus H2 plus H3 plus H4 divided by like all the height of all the students that we have in our classroom divided by the weight of all the students that we have in the classroom. And that's how we'll get the average height per weight of the classroom. Now, if I want to get this type of calculation done in Tableau, how I should do that? So I'll just translate this particular calculation in Tableau terms. And this will look like this: sum of height divided by sum of weight. And this is the major difference between aggregate and non-aggregate calculations. Non-aggregate calculations, they happen at row level. You are actually calculating only at a particular level of data, only at a transaction, or we can say. But if we are trying to calculate at an aggregate level, you are taking maybe a good amount, I can say, or maybe a bunch of or a group of data set, rows and information, and then you're trying to figure out a calculation or figure out a problem, whatever you have, and that's how you will try that calculation. So always remember what you are trying to achieve. Even if you have, even if you get hiccups, try to go back to the go back to your school days, how you do it. You'll write all those calculations and then you'll write the formula and then you'll do it. Typically, if you will see how you did it in mathematics at your school, and if you try to implement that same formula in Tableau, it actually works. So that's the best part of Tableau, and that's how you can actually fix your calculations. And I'll tell you that if you go about this way, you'll never have an issue with can't mix aggregate and non-aggregate calculations. I had a big trouble going on with such errors, but now it's fixed. So this concept really helped me to come up to this point. Now, at last, I'll also touch one more topic, that is continuous and discrete. There's a lot of confusion always about what is continuous and what is discrete. Now, what is continuous actually? Let's say there's a boy and he has to run, he's running on a race, and that is around 2.5 kilometers. So if he runs along the whole path, and if we take that whole path as an entity, then he's running from A point, let's say this is our A point, and this is our B point. So he'll be running from A to B, and that will be continuous. Now, if I break this particular path into 5 different segments, every one of 0.5, or we can have, it's not like it should be always equal segments, but yes, if let's say we are having equal segments. So if we are having different equal segments, these are actually discrete quantities. Now it's not just A and B. If I have to further mark it, I'll say this one is A and this being B earlier. Just this is not a right convention how we used to do it in school, but just bear with me. So now if we say now these A to C, C to D, D to E, these are different discrete components. And now we can say that for AC discrete, he ran for 0.5, or different types of analysis we can do around that. But the major thing that I wanted to tell you from this is whatever goes on with time and there is a continuous path, that is almost continuous. And if you break down things, it can be broken into different discrete elements. That's what the main topic is about. But I'll show you one more example about continuous and discrete. So with time, because generally when we use continuous and discrete, it's about time. Now, if we talk about time 2019 to 21, and let's say I want to scale, I want to see how my weight started in 2019 and it has been going till 2021. So if I map that particular value from 2019 to 2021 on a continuous scale without any breakouts, that will give me a continuous type of chart, as well as we will be using a continuous time dimension. So it is spread along a time and there are no breaks actually. Now, but how about if I break it into years, months, or days? Then it actually becomes discrete. Now, if I talk about that, let's say in January, February, March, how much weight I had on an average, then I'll further go for a discrete type of chart rather than going for a continuous. So think about time. If you are going from, if you have started your, let's say you started your college in 2020 and you'll be graduating in 2024, the whole time period, that is a continuous. Now you can further break that into semesters, you can break that into years, or you can break that into assignments. That's your level, and that's how continuous and discrete actually works. So it's totally up to you how, but in Tableau, we generally deal with time. And that's why we use date And with date and time, we try to segment them into years, months, days, further into weeks, maybe. That also depends on our requirement. And this is the actual concept behind that. Because the way we segregate things, the way it says that it is either continuous or discrete. If we start from one point and we are continuously going, it will be continuous. But if we are breaking it up into different segments, it will be always discrete. So it was short and quick, but this is all I wanted to share with you. It was something, it's not totally related to Tableau, but it's an overall view how you can see those things. And you can, every now and then, if you get a data, just think about it, how you can perceive those things in a tangible way, the things you can touch, because data out there in the spreadsheet we can't touch. And we usually don't get a feeling of how things are being done. But once you visualize them in a way that you can perceive them and maybe you can touch them, it's really easy to understand. So that's all from me, and let me know if you have questions.
Okay, thank you
Yeah,
so much,
thank
Prasann, for that session.
Thank you, Prasann. That was very insightful, and I think, as I say, like before we jump into the visualizations, like you need to have a basic understanding of what the data is. Data standardization, consolidation is like very important before you start building your dashboard. So and to know about the data, to know about it from the basics, it's like very crucial. It was a very good session, Prasann. Thanks a lot for giving us insight. Okay, so next up is Vani. So Vani is a Tableau ambassador and again a very active community member. So I'm a fan of her this trio initiative where like three of them got together and created visualizations week over week, and they learned Tableau together. So that's very important, right? I mean, like learning together, opens up a lot of possibilities. Like you can reach out to each other, and you the small group can itself be your like provide you the feedback, mentor each other, and that was a very impactful one. And like and again, you can see her if you are on Twitter. You can see her like actively participating across the community and creating visualizations. So it's an honor to have you here, Vani, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Lord, for the introduction. Just share my screen. Yeah. Hi guys, so like Vinod already said, my name is Vani Agarwal, and I'm right now working as a data visualization engineer at Expedia Group. Besides working, I am right now co-leading the Tableau Buddy talks with my friend Prasann. And apart from all that, you can just find me reading, singing, or traveling while I'm not working on any of these. Apart from all this, I really enjoy writing blogs, especially on the tips and tricks I pick up while I'm working, which you can again find on my blog site over here. And you can always connect with me on LinkedIn, Twitter, or Instagram through any of these handles. So without further wasting any more time, yeah. So today we are going to talk about the basic do's and don'ts of building a dashboard. Now the topics which we're going to cover are just not restricted to Tableau as a software, but to every visualization software which we use, maybe be it Power BI, Looker, or whatever. And these are, certain stuff which I mostly picked up while converting wireframes into Tableau dashboards. A very important thing to note when we start working, when we start creating visualization is, connecting, how to connect to a data source. So there are two ways in Tableau basically, which is live connection and an extract connection. A live connection, I usually prefer not to use a live connection because it somehow makes my dashboard slow a number of times. But live connection should mostly be used when the changes, a lot of changes are happening in data frequently, and they need to be immediately reflected on your dashboard. But usually prefer to go for an extract connection because it reduces my processing time, because it just creates a snapshot of your data and stores it on a local computer. So it just takes a little bit less processing time than it takes for live connection. So that's something to keep in mind while going into making a dashboard. The very second important thing, which, even I don't follow a number of times while I'm making dashboards, which I definitely should, and a lot of us should, is, naming our calculated fields properly, naming our sheets, and naming our dashboards. It's like a very inbuilt habit that whenever we make a dashboard or create a new sheet, we don't name them. We just let them save them by their default name, like calculation one or two, sheet one, two, and so on. Now, this is okay if you're working on a personal project, which is not going to be shared with other people. It's just yours. But it becomes very important to give all these names so that people who come after you or people other than you who use your dashboard can actually make a sense out of it. Now, one thing is, you won't have to spend your time or waste your time in explaining to other people as to what has been done, because the fields and the sheet name itself can give them some idea as to what is coming after this. So that's a really good, uh, in fact, that's a really good thing to give your sheets and calculated fields name associated with what's happening inside. For example, if you have made a profit ratio, if you have a formula which calculates a profit ratio, the calculated field name should be profit ratio so that the people know that this is what is happening inside this formula. Now, the second thing to do is, again, it's not something which a lot of people do, and it's not compulsory. It takes a little bit of extra time to do all this, but makes a lot of difference in the longer run. Hiding all sheets. So a lot of people sometimes they don't even know that this is an option in Tableau. So whenever you make a dashboards are made up of multiple number of sheets, which comes uh, at the navigation at the bottom of the dashboard. And sometimes if we have a lot of sheets, right, what happens is that it becomes a bit difficult to navigate. So what I do is whenever I'm done with making my dashboard, I usually right click on the dashboard and click the option of hide all sheets. So this helps a lot with keeping my dashboard clean and helps me a lot with navigation. I don't have to, click and go on different sheets and see what has been done where. So that's one thing which you can do. The second thing is adding comments in the calculated field. Now, this is something which goes a long way, honestly. I recently started doing this and this has been like a lifesaver. So what happens is I make sometimes dashboards, especially in the professional, in a professional setting, it's very important to do this because maybe you're working on a lot of KPIs. I got a KD or maybe, I discuss with the client as to what they want. Today, I understand what's happening. I remember it for a week. I do make the dashboard. After 2 or 3 months, when you come back to it, right? Even I won't remember what happened. Even I won't remember why I did certain things in a certain way. So it's very helpful to add comments inside your calculated fields to let people know as to what happened here for you also and for people other than you who use your dashboard. And the last thing is consistency. So maintaining a consistency is a really, really good thing to do. For a certain example is text hierarchy. Uh, like we know if a text is in a bigger font, it could be the heading, and the text which comes after it are in smaller fonts. Now, by default, when you look at something which is bigger in text, you automatically think it of its heading, right? In the next sheet, if you make it a smaller in size, because in the first sheet you made it so big, people are just not going to think of it as a heading. They're going to maybe think of it as a regular text. So it's very important to maintain a consistency of your formattings, be it a number formatting, text, color, date, font size, whatever. It's important to maintain a consistency in a particular dashboard. Now, this is a small checklist which I always keep with me because even I sometimes forget to do a lot of stuff. So if when you use Tableau, when you make something, by default, there's always grid lines and shading, pane shadings and all that in Tableau, which are always not required. So it's a very, good practice of removing those unnecessary grid lines and shading because it just makes your work look much more cleaner, right? Second thing is proper labeling of charts. Like this is the most important thing. Charts, if not labeled properly, actually lose a lot of meaning, for me at least. So I would say always properly label your charts, add titles to your charts. That makes a lot of difference, right? And also making the marks visible to the end user, um, right? Second thing is like, this is something which I personally follow. It could also depend on the practice your company follows or something. So whenever I add lots of numbers, for maybe it's a PL statement, and I have a lot of huge numbers. So I usually left align my text so that it's very easily understandable and readable, because this is the usual format which we always had in school as well. It's very easy to compare numbers if they are in the same alignment and also left or right. A number with a center aligned is very difficult for when it comes to comparing, it becomes a bit difficult. So it's a good practice to do that. Word wrapping. So word wrapping again is something which we all miss out very frequently when we add something. Whenever you add a text field, it's a good practice again to word wrap, because sometimes the texts are a bit longer and you cannot see the remaining text. It just becomes dot dot dot. So if you word wrap, Tableau will make sure to add the extra text to the next time so that everything is completely visible to whoever is viewing your dashboard. And also make sure to make your row width, row height adequate so that the word wrap could actually work. And the last thing is adding proper suffix and prefix to your numbers. Numbers will lose their entire meaning if you don't have a suffix or a prefix. If I write 5, 10, 20, and not add percentages, they kind of lose their whole meaning, right? So do ensure and remember to add these. Yeah. Now that was more on the formatting side. This is more on the creating dashboard side. So it's a good practice to to understand what dashboard size you should follow. Uh, does a fixed, automatic, or range? Which one makes more sense for a use case? And then following that further, using proper containers. Sometimes people just drag and drop any of these containers, vertical and horizontal. But once you start adding elements into them, it makes a huge difference as to which container you are using. So again, after visualization in your mind, your design, think which container will make more sense for you in the dashboard. One very important thing is giving padding and enough white spaces between the elements, because design without padding, without white spaces, and with white spaces look very different. And giving white spaces and padding, enough white spaces and padding, makes your dashboard looks 110 times percent more better than without white spaces and padding, right? You should also remember not to add too many elements, because it will make your dashboard a bit crowded and difficult to use. Again, if you are adding dashboard actions, Tableau will again give them the default names, which is okay if it's a personal workbook. But in the future, again, if you open it after some time, you will definitely forget what it was. So it's good practice to give them names. Then adding elements to a group of elements. If you have added a title, subtitle, and a chart in a dashboard, it's good to give a border around that group of elements so that it's very clear that this is one group of elements and this is another group of elements. So the distinguish and to separate them is really good to the eyes. Also, if you are making a lot of versions, a lot of changes to a dashboard, it's very good to add a version prefix to it, like version V2, V1, V2, V3, so that even you will know, and the people who are using along with you will know which version to work on, which is the latest version. And also, it's very easy to fall back to the previous version if some of the new changes are not required. So that's a good practice. The last thing is something which personally saves me a lot of time. So I, for a fact, know that my company has a color palette which we always use while making dashboards. So instead of going again and again copying the hex code, what I do is I go to the documents folder. You will see a Tableau repository folder in your documents always. And in that folder, you will see a preferences file, which you can open with any reader. I open it with Notepad. And all you have to do is add all those color codes. It's a simple HTML file. You just need to add all your color codes in it and save it. Close your Tableau file once and open your Tableau file again and you will see the new custom palette over there itself. So now I don't have to go back again and again and copy and paste my hex code. I'll get my custom palette which I use regularly in Tableau. So that saves a lot of time. So these are some practices which we can follow while creating dashboards. And that was it from my side.
Thank you, Vani. It was really helpful. We build dashboards, and in every team they should try to have some consistency in the way we build the dashboards, right? Like you'll have multiple developers, and the developers might be interns, and when someone else comes and look into the work which is already done, they should be able
Yeah.
to pick it up and do it. Not just that, so kind of bringing in consistency, it also brings in some, like consistency in the user experience as well as
Right.
in it helps you to build a brand. As in, like the dashboards from your team or your book of work should be like sort of reflect. Okay, so whenever people look at any dashboard from your team, they should be able to recognize it. And it helps a
Exactly. Yeah.
lot in like these different, if each dashboard is built in a different way, it doesn't look good on a stakeholder presentation. So it has to be like proper, like similar kind of structure, so that it all looks like a plan. So that was very helpful, and that's a lot of those are like really important tips that anyone should follow to get your dashboards while you're building your dashboards. Okay,
Thank you.
so yeah, thanks a lot, Vani. Okay, so next up is Priyanka. Okay, so Priyanka is a Tableau ambassador again, and she's like like we call her a Viz machine because she keeps on churning like churning Viz after Viz. So I think she has around 300 Vizes in her profile. She's a very active community member, and she's been in the community for like almost like 3-4 years, and she's like like she's really good in Tableau calculations, which is very crucial. Not just the design, she's also like really good on the Tableau calculation side. And if you go and check her Tableau public profile, you can see all her workout Wednesday related visualization. So that talks about her prowess in Tableau calculation. So she's here, and she's going to talk about the unused Tableau features. And Priyanka, it's an honor to have you here, and over to you.
Thanks for the humble introduction, Vinod. I'm having some bad internet connection today, so I'm going to keep my camera off. But if you face those issues, let me know. I'll stop. So let me get my screen shared. Okay, yeah. So this is me. I am a data enthusiast. I love visualizing data that interests me, mostly which I call as passion projects. I'm a Tableau public ambassador, and I work as a technical lead at USEReady. I Apart from all data, I am a big sports fan. I especially like to watch tennis with my dad and Harry Potter, which is my first true love. So that's again something. I'm usually very quiet in nature, but I love hanging out with my friends. So with that, let's not spend so much time on this and just let's jump into our today's topic, which is underused features in Tableau. And I'm going to talk about some of the functions and features that we sort of miss out on. And to be honest, a lot of them I've missed out in my initial years as well. So it's fun to finally realize that there are better methods to do things. So we'll quickly talk about these top 10 things that I have today. And I also have two bonus server related tips, server and online tips that we can discuss. So with that, let's quickly jump into the dashboard and we can walk over each of these uh, functions. So the first one, let me just, is Ascii. So Ascii is a function that returns the code value of the character from the first character of the string. So basically when I write Ascii customer name, it's returning the Ascii value of Z. And you see that over here. So the function is pretty simple. It's just the Ascii and the customer name. But the way that you can use this is for sorting, which is very cool. So what you can do is you can use this to sort from A to Z or Z to A, which I'm doing over here. So basically you are assigning a numeric value to your string, and you can use that to sort the values. And how the sort works is pretty straightforward. I have a sort over here, which is integer sort, and I'm using A to Z and Z to A and having a value as 1 and -1. This is because when I want to sort Z to A, I want to make sure that the biggest value comes first, which is the negative now. So it basically helps you sort it. So this is something that I had in my customer requirement. So it's a really good way to sort things. So next up, we have Cad function. And this is kind of the opposite of the first one, Ascii. You basically pass in the Ascii code here, and you get the Ascii value for that in the function. So again, the function is quite simpler. It's just the Cad and the Ascii value. This is the Ascii value over here. And there are a lot of different Ascii codes that you can check out. Basically, I have a huge bunch of list over here. And you can simply try out adding these numbers and seeing how it works out. But for the example that I have over here is something that we are very commonly having in scenarios, which is the new line character. So if you want to show something in 2 different lines, you can basically just add a Cad 10, which is Cad 10. 10 is a value for a new line character. So you can add Cad 10, and it would give you a new line, and you can show it simply like that. So this is quite cool. Before having this feature, I would actually used to do something like this. Not the best method, but I would do it something like this. And then I would add a space and then city, which is kind of hard to keep track of if you have multiple ones. So I think this is one of a shortcut trip. So with that, next up is our attribute function. And attribute function is it's kind of a really underused function, I would say. I've never seen people use this. But in the simplest form, you could see that the formula is something like this. It means that if you have just one value for it, it would show you the value. If it has multiple, it would show you the asterisk symbol. So let me first remove this filter for you to see how it changes. So you can see that customer Aaron has multiple orders. And for that reason, the order ID here is asterisk. If I drag in the order ID here, you would start to see that values come up. Because there are 3 values, that's why it's showing as asterisk. If I remove this, you see the asterisk value come up here. Now, if I want to see only the orders only the customers that have just one order, I could simply drag it over here as a filter and use it as attribute and just filter out the asterisks. So these are the ones that have just one orders. So that's how attribute works. It's quite simple, not much use, but it does have a good use if you want to try out something like this. Next, let's take a look at the sign function. And again, sign function is something that I recently learned through a workout wellness challenge. If you see this example over here, you probably guessed it that all the negatives are in one value, all the positives are in one value. And that's right. Basically, what sign does it assigns a number based on your measure. So if the number is positive, it's +1. If the number is negative, it's -1. If the number is 0, it's just a 0. So that's how it works. And instead of using something like probably what I would use to do previously was profit greater than equal to 0, you could simply do something like sign sum, and it would work pretty smoothly. So that's what you see over here, a +1, a -1, and the color. Great. Next is again a maintenance tip. This is something that Vani was talking about, all the good practices that you do. So if you have a lot of sheets on your dashboard, it's really good to have them colored. And a personal experience, I've had a workbook that had 4 dashboards, and each of the dashboard had 6 to 7 worksheets. So when I started applying filter, I was a mess because I didn't know which sheet is what dashboard. Even after good naming, it was a little difficult for me to find out those sheets. So what I realized that when I had a color for one dashboard and all the worksheet with the same color, it was much easier for me to do that. So just color your worksheet. It's really easy to do that. And sometimes when I don't want to use the worksheet, I would just color it red to remind myself that this is some kind of a testing sheet or a unwanted sheet. Right. So that is color. That's very straightforward. Let's move forward to copy. And copy formatting is again something that I have not used much, but I have seen some good ways that I could use it. Firstly, if you have already formatted one of the worksheets, like maybe change the color or maybe remove the grid lines, and then you go to a different worksheet and you want to do the same thing. I'm a lazy person, so I don't want to do that again here. I would basically just copy my formatting from the first sheet and I would paste it in the second sheet because I'm a little lazy person. So that's how I would do it. So that's quite simple. You can just remove it. It doesn't format your text if you want to be sure. Like if you have a text formatting, that won't change. But if you have something like color or a grid formatting, that would affect in this way. So it comes in handy if you want to copy paste the formattings. So next is special values. And this is again something that I learned from Workout Wednesday, which is half my learning. So let's take a look at this again. So for this particular product, I see that the profit is there for 2018, but there's no value for 2019. And again, there's some values for 2020 and 21. So you see there's a break in chart. So that's where you can use this special values. So if by default, you have nothing over here. I change this to 0. And you see there are multiple values over here. So we'll just explore each one of them. So first up is show default values. Let's see how that works. The moment I change that, the default value that I have is what I see over here. So I by default added 0 for my missing value, and it works in a way that you connect the line from 0. The next is a hide value, which is basically you have the line, but you don't have any value for 2019. So you don't see any 2019 bubble over here. It's just a line connecting it. And I think this is generally what I would prefer to see, not the 0, but I would prefer to see something like this. And the last one is the default that we saw, which is break in value. So in any case, if you want to connect a line and it's a discrete field, like it's what I have over here, you can simply use this method and you can connect the lines. So special values has a lot of more things to offer. And frankly, this more for me to discover as well. So keep trying. If you find something new, share with others and you can learn more about this feature. So with that, let's move to the next one, sort controls. And so by default, we like to sort our bar charts in their ascending or descending order. And sometimes what happens is a client may be new to Tableau and he or she would accidentally click something and change the formatting. And would be like, don't change my formatting. I want it to be fixed. So in that cases, you can make sure that your client don't even see this sorting option. You can hide them from them. You can click on worksheet and uncheck the show controls. So that way, they can't change the formatting. What you give them is what they have. So this is good if you want to avoid it. If there's some reason you have to keep it, then of course let it be. But yeah, if there's something that you know that people might accidentally click, so in those cases, you can uncheck the sort options. Okay, so moving on to the last second from Tableau. So this is firstly, this is a workout mental challenge by Curtis, and I've used this for reference because this would be an interesting example. So firstly, describe a sheet. What does describe a sheet? So in Tableau, again, you have in worksheet, there's an option that you can use to describe sheet. When you click on this, it gives you a whole description of the sheet, what marks you have, what rows, what columns, everything you have, and other details. Now, this is a lot of information, But what I like about this is when you have a lot of calculations on your screen. For example, I have a calculation for retention, I have a calculation for customer percentage and number of customers. What I have to do is I have to go through all the calculations in the pane and understand them. But using a describe sheet, if I scroll below, I would see that the calculations are all shown here. So I can see how the calculation is, and I can easily understand the worksheet rather than going and opening each of the calculation. So comes in handy if you want to understand about your worksheet in a quicker manner. But if it's a simpler worksheet, I'm sure this is not needed for simple bar chart. But for cases like when you have calculations, give this a try. You can even copy and share with your colleague if they need to see the calculation. So yeah, a good way to understand a worksheet. And lastly, well, this is again a challenge, workout with the challenge from Anne. And this is quite interesting. If you see this, these have a lot of formattings and these are a lot of different tricks over here. But what I want to highlight over here is custom formatting. So let me show you how these work. If you have, so Tableau gives you an option to sort, sorry, I meant to say format, sorry, format your values in different manners. But there's also custom, which is what you see over here for this particular column. So this is a measure, and instead of showing the number over here, what we are showing is the symbols. So if it's a positive, we want a tick sign. If it's a negative, we want a cross sign. And if it's a 0, it's just a hyphen. So instead of having a calculated field or maybe using shapes, you can just use the custom formatting and save a lot of your extra work. Similarly, if you see this rank, this is again custom formatting. If you go to rank and you go to default properties, same way, you can see that if it's positive, it's a top, it's a negative, it's a bottom. So again, this is a really great way to format. I'm sure you can use a calculated field again, like something like positive, negative. But again, this is the way you can save extra work and make it faster for yourself. So with that, we come to an end to the Tableau tricks, and I have 2 bonus tricks for online or server. So let's take a look at those. So the first one is create, and second is comments. So I'm gonna jump to my Tableau online instance. Great. So right. So this is Tableau online. I'm sure you can do the same in Tableau server as well. The first one is comment and share. So I'm sure this must have happened with you for sure. You have a customer who applied a lot of filters. So let's take the same example. This is a simple Superstore dashboard. I want to see only consumers, and I only want to see the first class ship mode. And in that, I just want to see the office supplies. Now, after applying all these filters, my customer noticed that the number for maybe Texas is kind of odd. It looks like it's looking off, and I want to share this insight with my developer. So they will send you an email or send you maybe a a chat message that I applied these filters and I see the value is this, so something is off. And then you would go to the dashboard and do the same process. You would apply the filters, you would see the values and check the value. So you don't actually have to do that. You can save a lot of work. What you can do is ask your customer to just tag you. For example, I would do this for myself. I'm tagging myself with a message like, look at Texas profit. Okay, that's a very lame one, but maybe probably write a bit understanding text here and attach and basically attach your. Oh, sorry, I think my Yeah, attach your snapshot here. And when you post it now, this, now if I refresh this window, because I would actually get a notification on my email address that someone has asked me a question over here. So when I go back there and I click on the email or click on here, I can simply apply all the filters without doing it again. So if you see over here, this is filtered as per what my client would have asked me to do it. So I'm saving that work of doing it again. I can simply check the number directly. So yeah, again, this is really handy. Make sure to tell your customers to do this for them, not ask you to do the same process. It would save you a lot of work as well. Great. So coming to the last one, this is create view. So a lot of times you have a lot of a big chain of filters, like we had in my dashboard that I had around 10 filters, and my customer would be like, I don't want to apply it every time. So we suggested them you can create a view. So if you have the same set of filters being used, why don't you just create a view? You can go to view and you can say that this is my filtered view. And if you want to make it is visible to others in your team, that's great. If it's just for you, then save it. So the next time when you come here, you have an option to see the original, which is what I published as a developer. And if I want to just see what I want to see, which is basically my filtered view, I can change it to here and see only the values that value to me. So that's the last trick that I had on my plate. And with that, thank you for having me and hearing me out. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter, and we'll happy to help you out. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyanka. That was amazing. Like you are literally saving a lot of time for a lot of people here. So with all these tricks, I'm pretty sure like a lot of man hours will be saved. And those are some interesting tricks, right? I mean, to use it on a day-to-day basis. We might oversee them, but if we use collectively, it could save a lot of time and it makes our life easier. Okay, that was really wonderful. And yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot for providing these insights. So we have a question. And okay, so I think one other person, Arun, I guess they raised hand, but can you please post your question in the Q&A chat, Arun, so that we'll be able to look at your question and answer it. Okay, so we have a question from Surjit. How to export all the calculations from a workbook to keep a repository? I think it's an open idea out there, I guess. Like, so where they want all the calculations to be downloaded and keep it in a repository. Quite not sure whether the idea is a feature yet. So, speakers, any of you want to share any thought on that? Like, is there a, you know, how do you do it?
Yeah, actually, I have a. So it's not a Tableau feature, but
So,
there's a feature developed by a Tableau ambassador or visionary. I'm not very sure the person, but you can simply upload your workbook on that link, and
correct.
using the XML, it extracts all your calculation. I can find that
Yeah.
link and share with you. It really comes in handy for me.
Yeah. That's what we use the third party app only. So when she says that, it's more like an extension, Tableau extension. So where
Right.
like it's more like built on VBA or some other technology. So yeah, so a lot of options are there. The Tableau extension is like a whole world where like you get so much to do in Tableau. But Tableau feature as in it's not there yet, but it's an open idea and people have been upvoting it. So inbuilt, there's no feature, but as Priyanka said, there is an additional feature which she'll be sharing the link. Maybe you can, if your organization, like has the cap, allows you to use the third-party extensions, you should definitely try it out. Okay, thank you. Priyanka. And okay, could you please share where you applied shapes using formatting option? Okay, the Arun wants the workbook. Priyanka. So where she, so we'll be sharing it.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Any other queries? Please post your queries in the Q&A chat box. Okay. Fine. Yeah. So since there are no queries, I'll just take a minute to talk about, the importance of Tableau community. So the participants on the call, please do explore the Tableau community option. There's like a lot of learning to happen, and it's really the community is actually transforming lives and careers. Like it opens up a whole new world when you join the community. So the right place to start is Twitter with the hashtag DataFam. If you come in there, you'll get to know a lot of people. You can find all of us there, and through our connections, you can find even more people globally. It's a global community, and there's like so much of learning out there. So please do consider joining the community and embark on the data visualization journey. Right? So okay, let me share my screen. Okay, so I mean, like, thanks for everyone who took time to join the meetup. I know it's during our office hours. Some of you probably from India, the offices have already opened and you might be traveling or something. But yeah, I mean, we are really grateful for those who have joined. So if you want to speak at our next TUG meetup or any TUG meetup in the South India, you can always reach out to me. I can connect you with people, or if it's for Chennai TUG, you can, we can work out a plan. You can be a speaker in our TUG. And it doesn't matter if you're a ambassador or a visionary or you're just getting started in Tableau. So the whole point of all Tableau user groups are to bring people together and spread the word and you know uh, make people understand data visualization and start their journey into data visualization. So it doesn't matter. Even if you are like really new to Tableau, if you have anything to share, please do reach out and we'll be happy to host you. So we have some upcoming plans for our Chennai TUG. So the next meetup, what I'm planning is could be in person, but before that, I have a plan of inviting speakers from India and its neighbors, the other neighbor India and its neighboring countries. So it'll be more of I'm looking forward for that meetup to get to know our fellow Tableau folks from the neighboring countries. And the next one, we have a meetup which is coming up, which is dedicated completely to data management and data prep. That's very important. As I said, like today we learned some amazing tips from Prasann, Vani, and Priyanka about the do's and don'ts and the basic data structure and the tips and tricks. And before all of that comes the most important part of data management and data prep. So that is like the source of what is happening in Tableau. So we are planning a meetup dedicated to data management, data prep, and then I'm also planning for a student community, meetup. So it's not just in South India. Any student ambassador, not necessarily they have to be an ambassador. Any student from any college who's using Tableau and they want to share and come and speak at TUG, they are like welcome. Please do spread the word. So I'm just people who might be watching this recording later, or people who are already on the call. Please do spread the word and let them know that we are happy to host. In our next TUG. Yeah. So with that, I'm done. And thank you, uh, Prasann, Vani, and Priyanka for the amazing session. And it was like really insightful, and it's going to save us a lot of time, and it's going to make our dashboards look better as well. Right. So it's such an honor to have you all here, and I'm really grateful for the participants who have joined and asked queries, and hope you had some takeaway from this meeting. Yeah, that's about it. And until next time.
Thanks, Vinod. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Thanks for hosting us.
Thanks. Yeah.
I'm gonna stop recording. Thank you. Thanks all for joining. It was a great.